Today, our story starts at the time when Rome was still reigning as the ruler of the known world. During this time, the territories known today as England, Scotland, Wales, and Cornwall were all ruled by local tribes with Celtic origins. The tribes, tired of Rome's oppression, prayed for a warrior to rise up and fight for their cause. The wishes finally bore fruit in the form of the powerful queen that went by the name of Boudica. A century before Boudica was born, the Romans had waged a very successful war against the Celtic tribes of the British Isles, a war headed by Julius Caesar himself. This war was cut short when Caesar had to pull back his army due to the many conflicts ongoing back in Rome. A century later, a different leader named Aulus Plautius, with a 40,000-strong army, renewed Rome's fight for the Isles. They saw the sight of victory in 43 AD, with the Romans capturing the capital, Camulodunum. They also convinced some of the tribal leaders to surrender in exchange for peace and to keep their kingship. One of these kings was a powerful king by the name of Prasutagus. He was the husband of the protagonist of our story, Boudica. Wishing for a secure life for his tribe and his family, he agreed to become a client of the Roman Empire. In exchange, Rome would give them a kind of restrictive freedom. This agreement between King Prasutagus and the Roman Emperor Claudius was held until the passing of Prasutagus, when Rome broke the treaty and set the Iceni tribe ablaze. With her husband gone, Boudica became a target to send a message to the Iceni tribe by brutalizing and humiliating their queen. Her daughters were also caught in the crossfire, making the situation even more unbearable for Boudica. Boudica was the daughter of a prominent Iceni nobleman who was raised not just as a woman who would one day become queen, but also as a fierce warrior. After the violation of her people, her land, and her freedom, this warrior queen knew it was time to rise. Boudica knew it was time for a revolt. Prasutagus, king of the Iceni, after a life of long and renewed prosperity, had made the emperor co-heir with his own two daughters. Prasutagus hoped by this submissiveness to preserve his kingdom and household from attack, but it turned out otherwise. After his death, kingdom and household alike were plundered like prizes of war, one by Roman officers and the other by Roman slaves. In the beginning, his widow Boudica was flogged and their daughters violated. The Celtic chiefs were deprived of their hereditary estates as if the Romans had been given the whole country. The king's relatives were treated like slaves, and humiliated Icenic feared still worse now that they had been reduced to provincial status, so they rebelled. This piece, written by Roman historian Tacitus, shows us why Boudica had to rebel. Boudica started gathering allies from the many tribes all around, and all those whom Rome oppressed rose up. At the start of the revolt, Boudica started by attacking the capital that started it all, Camulodunum. Taking the Romans by surprise, the tribes were able to take the city. The tribes were able to show their combative nature and shared with the Romans that they were no longer willing to be oppressed. The tribes sent a clear message by destroying the temple of Claudius, which was the symbol of the Romans' rule in Camulodunum. After this battle, Boudica, with her red hair and shining armor, became a symbol of freedom to the people all over who were being oppressed by the Romans. She continued to capture the cities of Londinium and Verulamium. The tribes continued to be victorious, the Roman Empire continued to be shocked by their victories and the violence with which they took the cities. At this point in her story, Boudica truly lived up to her name, which means woman of victory, victorious woman. The situation was perilous for the Romans in the British Isles, and Emperor Nero even considered pulling his troops out of the British Isles together. Many fierce generals who had won many battles avoided leading troops to confront Boudica and her group of fearless warriors. Finally, at the climax, the well-known general Gaius Suetonius stepped up to battle the queen and her army. The general left the cities of Londinium and Verulamium to their fates. He made up troops and went to battle in what is now known as the Battle of Watling Street. Gaius brought about 100,000 troops to face Boudica's 300,000 troops. They battled fiercely in an unknown location. Even though Boudica had more troops, the tactician mind and equipment of the Roman army made them a formidable opponent. Boudica's troops tried to retreat but were unable to due to the Romans' clever use of the landscape. The Romans were once more victorious in this ultimate battle between the Empire and the Celtic tribes. Boudica's ultimate fate is still a mystery that historians have not been able to solve, with some reporting that she passed away due to illness or took poison so that the Roman Empire would not use her to further hurt her people. They have said that her people gave her a grand burial to honor her. What we do know is that her name and story have spread over time and inspired others to rise up in different difficult situations. Always remembering that there was once a red-haired warrior queen who did the same.